Speaking of technology, you have a good working understanding of the vessel and the capabilities. Two questions. One, do you concur with these estimates about how much oxygen may be left? And can you help us understand why the vessel doesn't have more communications equipment on it, or an EPIRB or any kind of beacon to make it easier to find?
Well, so absolutely, these are their estimates, right? So it's not like there's a countdown that oxygen disappears, at 8:02 a.m. It's more of an estimate. And the fact is, it's not necessarily the oxygen. It's you're going to get carbon-2 buildup, carbon dioxide buildup, and that's really probably starting to wear on them already. So there's a lot of challenge to face. Now, the fact is, when people do this, what these people are doing is pushing the limits of what humanity has done, going down to 4,000 meters. There's only a handful. I can count the number of ships that could go down to that depth that the world has on your fingers, right? So why is this rescue so challenging? Because these people are pushing the limits. They're explorers, and these 5 people in there, there's no average people on there. These are not tourists at all, as you sometimes hear. These are hardcore explorers that have done amazing things. For some of them, this is just this is a minor trip.
Understood. In terms of the capabilities of the vessel itself, I know is just a regular boater. You go offshore, you get your EPIRB, which is an acronym for people, just allows for echolocation, GPS location of the vessel. There's all kinds of communication equipment on a regular vessel. Does the submarine have these kinds of capabilities? And if so, what is your guess as to why there's no communication?
Well, so absolutely. I mean, the problem is at that depth, a lot of the beacons and transmitters and transponders you're going to use at the surface that would instantly work just can't go through 4,000 meters of water. So, so they have sonar. They have a modem basically that they use to communicate. So the boat drops a modem in the water that uses sound waves to communicate with the other end of the modem in the sub. And so why is it not working? That's the million-dollar question, right? Did the power go out? Did something worse happen? No one can tell at this point.
Now, it's an interesting phenomenon when we are in the moment of crisis, okay? And this obviously counts as that, even though it's just a handful of people. It's not a school full of kids. There's always a balancing test of, hey, let's see if we can find them, and then we'll talk about what happened here and why. I've always disagreed with the analysis, not just here, because I believe that this is when people are paying attention. So this is when to have whatever conversation matters, because God willing, these people are found. We're never going to talk about anything here again because we'll be so happy. So there are layers of criticism coming out. You said earlier there are only a handful of vessels that can go to this depth. There's a question as to whether or not this submersible is one of them. There are these reports about whistleblowers that came out and litigation that this outfit and this vessel were not what they needed to be. Do you put any credence in those?
Let's start with the fact that the lawsuit was against the previous version of the ship, not this one. So it's not even about what's actually happening here. But the technical details of whether they're ready or not, these are people that were very safety conscious, did a lot of work to ensure safety. When we were on board, there was safety briefings. We spent a lot of time training for these type of things. So, you could always say we should have done more. So, of course, you could have done more. And, of course, hindsight quarterbacking is easy. But these are people that were pushing the limits. And the people in there knew the dangers that they were accepting when you're doing things that are beyond what are. This is not a Disney ride, right? This is humans going to places that very few have been to. So there are risks and there are dangers. But this is a team that is very experienced and talented and did a lot of things well, but could they do everything perfectly? Maybe not.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.